Okay. No, that's not that. We'll call this meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, opening, setting of the agenda.
I do not have any additions. However, there's been a request to move the library board appointment and the bus garage up to the front of the agenda.
Is everybody all right with that? Any discussion on that? Entertain a motion to set the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, motion carried. Audience participation. Now, because there's so many of us, if you want to speak on an agenda, before you need to say right now. I need your name, and you'll have a limited time to speak, but I need to know who's going to speak up front, so that when we get to that part of it, then we can save some time. Right, the item number and what you want to talk about, and your name. Is there anyone that wants to speak to items on the agenda? Paul?
Bus maintenance.
Okay. Paul Costello, bus maintenance. Anyone else?
I'd like to speak. Michael Fisher on the bus maintenance.
Okay. Yes. Yes, sir?
Ernest Rowe on the bus maintenance.
Okay. All right, any others? Yes.
Sherry Martin on the bus maintenance.
Okay. Any others? All right, we'll move on. Consent agenda. Are there any items we need to pull out?
There's nothing that we need to pull out. However, there's some things that I would like to highlight if my computer will wake up. First of all, there's a lot of certified staff that we're hiring tonight, and part of that is the reorganization of Jesse. So all of the teachers who have formerly been employed by Jesse has to be hired by Plymouth Community Schools now. And then once we've hired, they'll be able to resign from Jesse. So I didn't ask any of them to do that until they were hired tonight. Secondly, we're in the hiring seasons, and so we have quite a few new faces here tonight. And administratively, we have a couple of people that I know that are here and that I would like to highlight. At the junior high is assistant principal, who already lives in Plymouth and comes with 7 years of administrative experience, Craig Hoppel. Craig's right here. I think many of you know Craig. He comes and will hit the ground running with his years of experience in the neighboring school corporation. And the other one is Kyle Kaufman. He is recommended to be the new assistant principal at the high school. I think you probably all remember hiring Kyle a few years ago as teacher, English teacher at the high school. And so once again, with his knowledge of Plymouth, I think he will hit the ground running and be able to get on track faster than hiring somebody new because he knows Plymouth so well. I'd also like to take notice that the new head girls basketball coach, the recommendation is Dave Duncan. Dave has been with the program for 20 years and has done an outstanding job, and now he'll get to test his mettle now as head coach if you see so fit tonight. And I think besides that, that's all I wanted to highlight.
Okay.
I just make a comment on, we have also several teachers that are retiring again, and I won't mention their names other than the fact that I certainly want to thank them for their contributions and dedication to Plymouth, and wish them all their best in their retirement.
I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda? I echo Larry's sentiments on the retiring teachers.
Yes, I do.
Experience, yeah. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Could we, real quickly then, since everybody's been approved and they're
Yes.
official now, Reed, could you introduce the new teachers at
Yeah.
Lincoln?
I have 3 here, and Craig Hopple, our assistant principal, as you guys know, he's a part of the Manchester Mafia, and also a Purdue guy. I'm not sure how I hired him with those 2 credentials, but he made it. We're glad to have Craig. I have Sarah Geringer here. Go ahead and stand up, Sarah. Sarah is our new PE teacher, and she is from IU, so there's no wonder why I hired her. Okay. And she comes to us ready to go. We have Jake Singleton. Okay, Jake is a Ball State graduate and a John Glenn graduate as well, and he's going to teach 7th grade social studies. And then we have Leslie Stack. Stand up, Leslie. And Leslie taught Maryland for a couple years and is back. She is, I think it's Central Michigan grad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not too aware of where that is or what they are, but she did a great job. Okay. So we're glad to have her as well, and she's going to be a 7th grade social studies teacher as well.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
guys
Dahl.
very much.
Mr. Cotton, could you introduce anybody new that's here?
I don't have my new teacher here. She is from East Lansing, Michigan. I will tell you about her briefly. Her name is Kayla Kramer. She's a Michigan State Spartan, and she's going to be an additional staff member in our science department. And in year 2, she will transition into our School of Inquiry. So we're excited to have Kayla Kramer.
Mrs. Hershey, do you have
Yes.
anyone here?
Yes, I do.
She's writing down names quickly.
No, I'm writing down where they graduated from, so I didn't finish. I'll just forget that part of it.
That's okay.
But Mindy Thorpe, and she's language arts, 6th grade. I have Mary Lauk, who is our special education teacher. Allison Stone, who's teaching 6th grade science and social studies. And then Scott Scheller, who's going to be our advanced math.
Great.
Very good. Welcome aboard. Is there anyone else here that needs to introduce or be introduced? All right. Thank you very much.
And they can leave.
Yes.
You can leave if you want. You don't have to. You can stay. You can stay. Business under the item 3.0 business, consider school board appointment to the library board. Susie, I see you back there. Is there a recommendation that you want to make as an appointment?
Yes, there is a recommendation for Eleanor Kathmar Danielson. This is a reappointment for her, and she's been a very, very good board member. The other 2 board members that are appointed by the school board are Lisa Miller and Linda Ripley, all good appointees, so we really appreciate their great work they do.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve Eleanor Danielson.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carry on.
Anybody going with her? Anybody going to see her?
Okay, so now we're on to buses. Bus contract.
Mr. Smith?
Roger?
Roger.
Do you want to just,
Outline both proposals, or?
I think so, outline both proposals and we can,
Okay. We have a proposal from Weir's Fleet Maintenance for the bus maintenance. That's on, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, is it 42 units for the bus maintenance? And we also have a proposal from Oliver Ford Lincoln on essentially the same equipment. Might be a little bit difference in that because of smaller vehicles they would. Both of them have put a lot of effort into studying and looking at. We've been at the process with Weir's for a much longer time, and Oliver's came to it a little bit later, but did a really good job of looking into it. And my recommendation would be for you to consider both, but to adopt the Weir's proposal.
I think at this point we want to take input from the audience. Mr. Costello, I believe you were first.
I never have heard any figures of what this is going to cost, or what the cost of renovating the garage. I think this leaves every taxpayer in the dark. It's not their decision, but I think they should know what you're dealing with. Has there anybody considered the extra fuel to run back and forth to Weir's?
You asked me directly,
Yeah.
Paul? Yes.
You did?
Yes, we looked at all those things, sure. As to cost, the proposal that's recommended is essentially a flatline proposal. Cost would be essentially the same.
And they include the extra fuel in their bid?
We don't see that there's going to be very much difference involved in extra fuel. We already have people that go all over 2 townships. So yeah, we don't see that that's going to have an impact at all.
It's almost 3 miles from the school to Weird. And if you pick up there are 4 trips there. To come in the morning, take the bus back, get in it in the afternoon, and bring it back. Very close to 10 miles a day per bus. That's 50 miles per bus a week. And I don't know what those buses, around 7.5 miles a gallon, approximately. But if you figure that up, that's over 400 gallons of fuel. And about 30, close to 35,000 miles extra. I don't know how much fuel that would be, but it'd be a pretty long field trip, I'll tell you that.
Well, we think in the shift of ones that will use that facility and won't be at home, that it's going to be pretty much a wash, Paul.
2 seconds. Thank you. Mike, I think was next.
Yes, I just got a few things to say. I'm a graduate of Plymouth High School, 1983. I take a lot of pride in what I do here. I know these buses as well as Rick does. I mean, I just feel moving the buses somewhere else, not having the contact with the students that I do, I just feel that it's not a good situation either way. The students, personally my job, I'm not gonna lie to you, I enjoy working here. I'm not prepared to move to another location. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So in that consideration, I hope you guys vote no for this. So thank you.
Appreciate your input. Now I'm lost on who was next. Irving.
From what I've heard, and I've been in financial management all of my life, I don't see how any decision of any type could be made from what I've heard. You don't know what the bids are. Are the bids, is it being auctioned?
No, we do know what the bids are.
Well, nobody has
We do
said
have
one
that.
word of what the cost is going to be and what the cost is if it stays here. You gotta compare 2 and 2. One might be 5, the other might be 3.
Arnie, we've already done that. The board has all
We
those
have the
figures.
information.
We have the information. We've been asked by both, these are proposals, these are not bids. And we've been asked by both Weir's International and Oliver Ford that not to reveal all of their proposals because they are discounted. There are a number of issues in, but the board has seen all of those figures.
All right. One question in 2 forms. What is the, I'm using the word bid, you can call it what you want, contract if you want to call it that. What is the contract going out, what, in the, that's the word expense, all calculated, like this gentleman brought in the distance 4 times a day. And the other is how much would it cost to leave it here and get it done? Where is the profit? There, mathematically, or here? I've heard no figures, and yet I'm an expert when it comes to accounting.
The figures are essentially flatline.
Can they be told?
The transportation budget spent about $180,000 on this process, this particular one, working at last year. And the year before that, it spent a little bit more. The year before that, a little bit less. It goes up and down. But overall, the proposals are, we're both looking at a 3-year into 4-year period, and the proposals that have been recommended is essentially a flatline proposal. It won't cost any more. In the long run, we believe that there will be a considerable savings over time.
Well, they said in the city council that it wouldn't cost any more for the trash pickup. Not true.
I'm not looking at the
Yeah.
trash
But I'm
pickup.
just saying, they get contracts, but they don't give the facts to the people that actually paying for it. And I'm one of the persons paying for the word school, because I pay over $1,800 a year, and at my age, that is one big chunk of money when you don't know where it's going.
Thank you,
And people
Mr. Rowe.
should, people should
Thank
be-
you for your input. Two
I-
minutes is up.
All right.
Everyone has 2 minutes.
I just want to say one statement. Everybody should be informed what is taking place. End of story.
Right, thank you.
Sherry was
Well, mine is the cost of the remodeling. You don't know what it's gonna cost. There are 2 tanks buried over there under the property, and if any of those have leaked, it's very possible that it's gonna be several years before you can build over there, like up at 6 and 31, where that little shack is, that is monitoring the, what's coming out of the ground and stuff. And I'd just like to know if all this stuff has been taken into effect and you have a figure of what it's going to cost. You're still gonna have to come up with this money from somewhere, and it's gonna end up going to the taxpayers, whether it's a new building or it's a remodeling of an old building. You guys are gonna have to come up with this money from somewhere. And I think as taxpayers, we all should know what the figures are. You're throwing figures out that are, it doesn't include the gas, it doesn't include this, and when I figured up my route, I would leave from Weir's, I usually leave from here and head east. Now it's going to put, I'm going to be putting an extra 20 miles a day on my route by going out and deadheading back and forth. And so when you figure that up, all of that up, that's one heck of a lot of money. If we just figure it on the gas, like we said, for 4 trips, it's 11.2 miles. If 18 buses do that, you're talking about $14,980 more at $3 a gallon to run from where we are and back. And I realize some will have a little less because they're in that way, but it is not a wash. It will not be a wash.
Appreciate
So-
your input. Thank you. Does the board have questions?
Yes, how many take-home buses do we have?
Rick, about half of them go home
Yes,
out of the 31 rounds?
31.
About half of them go home.
So half of them?
And that could change from year to year, I mean, with where kids are located.
In looking at the bids, in which I've looked at them also, and you indicated that over the long run, it's gonna save the school and the taxpayers money.
Yeah, we really feel that by applying professional standards to the overall maintenance of the fleet so
Yeah.
large, that we're going to be able to affect savings in the long run. It's a common knowledge within that particular discipline that large corporations find that outsourcing that kind of work is money in the bank for them in the long run. I would find it hard to believe that our situation would be very much different than that. Well, we're talking about a fleet comparable to all kinds of other commercial operations. Not saying anything negative, we've not criticized one time about the job our people, that Rick and Mike and your guys have done. It's a different world today. The things are maintained in different fashions, and the needs of the school corporation are different than what they were 40 years ago.
Roger, I'm totally supportive of increasing our vocational programs. I mean, that's, kids is what it's all about. That's the bottom line. And obviously, if this goes through, as Sherry mentioned, there's going to be expense involved in that facility over there in order to get it ready for the vocational programs. Do we have the money to do that?
Well, that'd be a decision for the board to make down the road if you determine then whether or not you're going to do it. We certainly have the capability to do it.
Well, that's what I mean. Do we have the capability
No question.
to do that with funding
No
or whatever?
question. We have the capability, sure. Whether or not we want to do it or not. But certainly have the capability.
There would be a cost, we've talked about this before, there will be a cost in remodeling any facility, but the cost in remodeling is about $80 per square foot, and the cost of building new is $150 per square foot. So whenever you can use an existing building to remodel, you're almost saving half of what it would cost to create educational space. You know, that question was asked the last time, and I didn't go into detail on that. I apologize for not going into detail, but that's the savings. You know, somebody said, well, why don't you buy another building? Well, if we had to buy a building, we would need to remodel that plus the purchase cost. So, you know, we've looked at various areas, ways to do this, and there is going to be a cost. Sherry, you're absolutely right.
I wonder whether or not the kids of the district can afford to wait for programs that are necessary to compete in the world as it is today. Because there are other restraints. There was a discussion years ago before I was here about not doing new buildings and using what we had available. And as I read all of the minutes of that discussion is that we're not going to be building anything new until 2020. Well, I don't know that our kids can wait for that. Not if they're going to compete for the jobs and be attracted to stay within this community as the adopted plans of the district are. You said it, Larry, the kids are what it's about.
That's right, and that's the thing that bothers me. Have we had anybody look or take a look to see if we have any contamination over there?
I talked to the architect who's on the working on the remodeling at the high school right now, and he said that if we had contamination, it would already be contaminating the high school. We would have the same issues with the buildings that we have already. So he didn't see that as an issue, although he did say that before you do any remodeling, you test, so there would be test run.
Those haven't been run yet.
Those have not been run yet, but they could be run.
A hypothetical situation, you enter into a contract or an agreement, if at some point in time in the future it's terminated by either party, what happens to the bus maintenance? Try to find another service provider?
those.
In the short run, before anything has been done, we put provisions in a potential contract for a buyback of equipment. In the long run, you'd be looking for a different vendor, definitely.
At what price?
I have a question for Dave. Our other vehicles and things that are used for maintenance, are they serviced out of that area, or how do you do that?
They are serviced through the garage. We have the pickup trucks, and we have a couple of lawn mowing, like the wide area mowers, and a couple athletic field mowers, and regular service like oil change, broken hose, broken basic. They don't do like engine rebuild type stuff, but they do the regular service and repair.
Blade sharpening and all that?
Ground Sky does the blade sharpening, but they do the other like hydraulic service if it needs fluid, stuff like that, and belts and hoses type of.
And what would be your plan then if we do take the bus maintenance out of this facility?
I would have to look at my mowing equipment and assess and see what types of work we could do with our own people. And then I would have to look at our local contractors, or like Gilsinger Implement Company or North Central Agri-Power, people like that, for certain things that we wouldn't be able to do. Or maybe like Oliver Ford or somebody like that for trucks, things like that.
If you're still servicing those particular machines, if the agreement were entered into, where do you store those machines over there now?
We have a grounds building out by the JV baseball diamond. That's where we have that stuff.
Dave, how many rotations and oil changes have there been in the last year? 2 years or whatever.
Like my truck, probably in the last 2 years, I've had probably 5 oil changes and 1 tire rotation, something like that. I have one of the newer ones, but roughly.
So probably
18,000
about
miles.
total of 20.
18,000 miles in roughly 2.5 years, something like that.
For 5 vehicles, so about 20 times.
Yeah, roughly.
So
What's the shop rate up to the
Not
shop?
very much.
That's not a huge amount of money then we're talking now
No.
for maintenance.
And we already
Just
take
for
equipment out to
convenience.
other jobbers, so.
It wouldn't be huge, I wouldn't think.
All right. Any other questions you guys have?
I would just reiterate what Larry talked, our position and our goal always for this board, and we've always put students first. And we gotta look at the big picture and just not a small, isolated part. And so bottom line is what's good for students. And so when it's all said and done, that's what we're doing.
I have a question. How many students would this involve going to this particular school? Are we talking about 20? Are we talking about 280? Against what we're talking about, the bus garage?
It would be-
The students that we service through the bus garage.
I can't give you exact numbers,
So it might be 1 student.
but I can say that I've had Jerry Hollenball, and he was here earlier, but.
He's there.
Jerry.
He's still here.
He's our vocational director, and he's been working with Vincennes University. We'd like to get a foot in the door up here, and our vocational programs, we could probably put 3 of them in there. We could probably look at putting precision manufacturing, which would be CNC. We could probably look at putting advanced manufacturing, which would be advanced CNC, and we could probably look at putting an HVAC program in there. There would be enough room for that. Those, Jerry, those pay the school corporation $1,500 a year for every student above and beyond the tuition dollars we get. And those are the highest, those are the most needed jobs out there right now, so that's why it pays the most. How many students would you average in a vocational program, Jerry?
Well, you're gonna average probably 20 per program, so you're looking at probably 60 students at least. I'm just kind of looking at the minimum.
And did Vincennes also talk about offering programs at night for adults in that building?
Absolutely, in summer. And there's some possibility that Work One is interested in offering some programs for those adults that are in need of some retraining or upgrading their skills. And an advantage here is we're going to have certification from these programs instead of just the fact that you passed the grade. You know, and they're going to come out of certification, plus they're coming out of dual credit from Vincennes. We're even looking at the fact that Vincennes is, there's a good possibility they're going to pay for the instructor's cost. So that would really be a big help. And the support we're getting from the community and the businesses to put in equipment in here, because I've always wanted a machine, precision machine program, CNC, in one of our schools, but they're so expensive. You know, I mean, those programs, to buy those CNC machines and things like that are just outrageous. And we've had a business here in town that's really stepped up to the plate to put in $1,000 into that program. So you know they want it if they're putting money into it. So I mean, these are opportunities. You know, these kids are going to come out of there with some certification. They're ready to go to work, or they can go on to further education and work. So I mean, it's a win-win. I just see it. I don't see any reason to not look at that. You know, and this is an opportunity over here with the facility being there.
Question. If somebody has the machine that's available to put over here, do they not also have the room to put it in where they can put the whole program in a building? Along with this CNC machine?
In their building, you mean?
In one of their many?
Well, that's a whole different issue, and I don't know about the school attorneys here. But, you know, you get into liability and all kind of other things there. If they're not at our facility, you know, I would hate to send our kids somewhere where they might be in a dangerous spot that we don't know about. I mean, that would have to be investigated.
Well, that was also not the offer. But what is part of the offer is that these students, once they get that first level of training, could start doing internships in the community, in those industries that are in the community, and there's many of them. And then our local industry could cherry pick the best students to work right here in Plymouth, Indiana, Marshall County, you know, they're struggling to get students to get a job force to come in and run those machines, because it's a different situation today than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And we're trying to create a situation that's good for kids, good for Plymouth, good for Marshall County. These are programs that we need to take a serious look at.
Don't you already send the nursing program and the beautician program to other schools? When you said you would hate to send our people?
We're not talking about that now. We're talking
Yes,
about
you are.
this-
You're talking
we're
about
talking
sending
this
kids
bus
to other
program.
buildings.
Right now, we've got a proposal that we're looking at. Are we prepared for a motion?
Well, you know, in light of Mr. Samuelson had to leave in an emergency situation, I think I would move that we table this till our next meeting.
Yes.
Need some more information.
I think we need to gain a little bit more information, and I would like for Mr. Samuelson to be here.
Okay.
Is there something, go ahead and get a
No,
second.
go ahead. Are we having a second for
Is
that?
there something specific that you'd like us to gain before the next meeting?
I think definitely I'd like to know, if possible, if there is any contamination over there. And if so, what kind of a cost are we talking about? I mean, I'm 100% for the vocational programs, and I'm sold on that. I just want to make sure that feasibility, this is a good move. Nothing against Mr. Weirs or Mr. Oliver. I think they both have tremendous programs. And I feel confident, if Mr. Weir's was the best bid, that if we moved in that direction, that we would get good service. I don't deny that. But I want to make sure that if we move that direction, this is going to be okay over here. And if it's okay over here, I have no problem with it.
We will start on that tomorrow.
Second.
Any discussion? You have any questions for me? No? All in favor of tabling this for now, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Item tabled. We'll take it up next month.
Thanks for your input.
Yes, appreciate it.
Have you looked at the possibility of renting the Reese building, which is in walking distance of the school? There's a new shop down there, about 15, 18 years old. You looked into that, it's about the same area as the bus garage. And I haven't been in it, but I'm sure it was built for the purpose of machines and mechanical work. Have you inquired of Mr. Reese, or would you be interested?
If we are going to renovate a building, my preference would be to renovate a building that we own.
Right. Okay,
That's your
moving
5-year
on.
lease, and you know where you were going with the program.
Thank you very much for your input, appreciate it. Okay, is that on item 3.1? Okay, item 3.1, report on concussion procedures for athletes.
And we have our trainer who's with us tonight, who will give us information on a new state law that we have to implement at the beginning of the year.
Hi, thank you for giving me the time to speak.
Thanks for coming.
Just want to give you an update. I'm going to try to be quick on this. There is a new law in the state of Indiana. Indiana legislature passed a law that takes effect July 1st of this year. It is on concussions in athletics. I'm going to go over that a little bit. I'm going to talk about what we're doing for our student athletes to make sure that they are safe and being taken care of properly in the case of a head injury. So, just to highlight a little bit of the law. It is Indiana Code 20347. July 1st, 2012, the Department of Education has sent all the information that we need already, so we have that. Information sheets, guidelines, forms, and I'm going to go over the forms a little bit later in the presentation. We already have those, and those have already been distributed to our student athletes. They are going to get these forms. They need to sign an acknowledgement form. Their parents also need to sign it. Those have to be returned before they start any kind of athletic participation, just like the athletic physicals every year. They have to return those before they are eligible to play in any high school events. Any player suspected of a concussion or any kind of head injury needs to be removed immediately and be evaluated by an appropriate health care professional. That would be me at the high school if I'm around. If I'm not around and the coaches see that the kid is suffering from a head injury, then they need to hold him out until I can get there at least and make sure that everything's going okay. Once I get there, if everything checks out and they're okay, that is within the law that I can, my evaluation can show that whatever happened was not as a result of a head injury. They can return and play right away. But if I suspect that they have a sign, mechanism of injury, which is a fall or hit to the head, and any sign or symptom, then they have to be held out and continue to be held out until they are seen by a health care provider. I must have written clearance that they return to participation before they can do any kind of activities again. And then a little bit on the health care provider. There is a long list of who is considered a health care provider in the state of Indiana. Athletic trainers are not one of those. We are healthcare professionals, so I alone cannot clear that kid to return to play. and we'll talk about that a little bit later on too. These are the forms that we've handed out. These are from the Center for Disease Controls. The first one and this one, and I apologize, it's a little hard to read, but if you want to see it, it is on the corporation website under the Parents tab. It's also under the Students tab. This is the fact sheet for athletes. It tells them what a concussion is, what the symptoms are, and what they need to do to make coaches and medical professionals aware of what's going on. That's been handed out to our student athletes already. This is the form for the parents. Again, this is on our website, and that's been handed out to the athletes to take home as well. This form is the student acknowledgement and parent acknowledgement form. This is the form that we need in the athletic office before they can play. And Mr. Bench and Mrs. Hunter are keeping track of those. That way we know if everybody's turning in or not. This form is specific to the kids who have signs or symptoms of a concussion or going to the doctor. They take this form to the doctor, get it filled out. That is the only form that we need to accept as their release note. If a doctor wants to put a note on top of that, we will accept that, but they are going to see that note as well, just so they are aware of what's going on. This is our procedure, and this is specific to our school, but it is very similar to other schools around the area. We've already handed out the sheets. The return forms are coming in. We're removing the athletes. Our coaches are educated on this. We've set up an education through the National Federation of High Schools, has a webinar. Our coaches are going to take that webinar. And then any time that a kid has a head injury or a concussion, I'm going to call parents, make them aware of it, make them aware of what the rules and the laws are. At that point, the kid's going to have to be sent for an evaluation. He's going to need to be seen by a physician, an MD or a DO, a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant only. We will not accept notes from chiropractors who are healthcare providers. We're not going to accept notes from other healthcare providers like physical therapists, things like that. The point in the law is that the providers are supposed to be trained and knowledgeable in the management of concussions, but the law does not state specifically who that is. It states that the provider can decide if they are trained well enough to evaluate that athlete. So we felt limiting it to those 4 specific providers would give us our best option for our student athlete's safety. And then even at that, the PHS sports medicine staff reserves the right to withhold an athlete. There has to be 3 things for an athlete to return to play. There needs to be a note, and that's the note coming from the healthcare provider. They need to be symptom-free, which means they have to have 0 headache, 0 nauseousness, 0 concentration problems, and they have to pass what is called the impact test, which is a test that we give to all the student athletes who are in a limited or high contact sport. And that's just going to give us a baseline of their cognitive function. It's a computer-based test, and we are currently next week we're going to test all the incoming freshmen and juniors. And every year we'll do the freshmen and juniors.
That establishes a baseline for that student in that panel.
Yes. That baseline is good for 2 years. Anytime they get a concussion, they're going to retake that impact test, and then it will compare with the baseline to tell us cognitively the things that we can't see in them, if they are okay or not. After that point then, that could take a while, it could take a day, it could take a couple weeks, it could take months. They still have to have a step-to-step return to play, and we are doing a 4-step. This is the same as some other schools around the area. Step 1 is stationary bike and running only. They are not to have any pads on, no contact, no hitting anybody, nothing. I'm going to monitor this. I will have them on the bike. I will have them doing certain running drills. It's going to be 15, 20 minutes or so, just to make sure that their headaches and symptoms aren't coming back with exercise. If they are symptom-free, they move on to the next step, non-contact, sport-specific stuff. And then again, return to full, and then return to game. They can only go 1 step in a 24-hour period. I know I went kind of quick, so if anybody has questions, feel free to.
Well, I think this is a positive step in the right direction. What about cost, Ryan?
The cost for the impact test is the only real cost to it, and that was covered through Dr. McFerrin and IU Health Systems. They got a grant and took care of that.
That's great.
So that's been availed to us through that means. The only other thing is, we do use the computers that we provide the students, and we use the wireless, and that's what we need for the school, but those were already available to us, so there's extra expenses there.
Do you have to submit a report to the state or anybody as to, you just have to keep your own?
We just have to keep our own records and make sure that we're doing things the right way. In reference to the law, I don't know who's policing it. I don't know how it's going to be policed, but we're going to follow it regardless because
it's a tremendous safety factor. So
yes,
yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
And actually, Ryan, we already had a concussion protocol in place prior to this, right?
Yes, we did. Last year we had this in place. We knew this law was coming, so we went ahead last year and set this up so that we could be prepared for that. And we were also doing the impact test last year as well.
Roy?
I want to publicly thank Brian. There's a long, lengthy study for the protocol procedure, and that went into place over a year ago. And the most important aspect of this is the integrity of staying on task, and that's been invaluable. I can't speak to other schools, but the integrity part to adhering to the protocol will be done, and that takes the decision-making out of the hands of the people who are probably least qualified to make those decisions. So I appreciate the length of time and the whole process that Ryan was involved in, because it was a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of energy. So thank you.
And I may say, board members, that sometimes you get calls. You may get a call on this next year, because last year I got calls about my kids. They're not letting them go back to play because they got a concussion, and we've lost 2 games in a row, and they need to be back in there. And my answer has always been, we have a protocol until that's finished. That's where they're going to stay.
Carol?
Once you be prepared.
How many students are we talking about in the athletic department?
Go ahead.
Is there about 450?
Yeah, 400 plus, give or take 15, but 400 is a good number.
Now, do all 400 have to take this protocol? Even if it's a non-contact sport they're participating in?
There's 4 sports that we're not going to test, and that is only people who run, only people who swim. We are going to test the divers. We are going to test the pole vaulters and high jumpers. We're not going to do golf, and we're not going to do tennis. And I believe that's it.
Many of those kids are multi-sport athletes, so the net is going to be pretty wide.
And I can say last year I think we had 35 kids that we retested for concussions last year alone.
35.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Carol?
I'm so sorry, I probably asked the question wrong. Are there 400 students, or as Mr. Ben said,
400 students.
400 students as opposed to, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Item 3.2, consider Blueberry Festival agreement.
Well, this comes up every year, and it's very similar to requests in the past. They're requesting to use the school grounds for parking of cars, and as you know, that is a huge moneymaker for many school groups and activities. Also asking to use Jefferson Elementary School for first aid, a baking contest. This is very similar to what we've done in the past, and so I would recommend that we approve it.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
It's a great fundraiser for many activities.
It's a great great event, period. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, item 3.3, consider Jesse Service District Agreement.
Yes, a couple of months ago, you approved a reorganization document. Now, what we're asking you to approve is there are going to be some services that we're going to ask that we are still gonna get from Jesse. Those are gonna include the use of the emotionally handicapped person who's an expert in that, a person who's an expert in autism, OTs, PTs. I think there's about 35 different people that we could possibly use and get services from, and we'll pay for that. And so asking you to approve that, and then we'll need, there's a signature page, so we'll need that signature signed after it's approved. And that will allow us then to get those services from what's left of Jesse.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Item 3.4, consider special education stimulus asset list.
Yeah, during the stimulus money craze, Jesse as a co-op got money to buy equipment, and since now schools are keeping that equipment, we have to transfer assets from Jesse to Plymouth Community Schools, and that's what this is doing. And so we would need your approval to accept these assets. It's just equipment that we purchased with stimulus money.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider contracts for administrators, assistant superintendent, and superintendent.
Yes, I will do the first two,
Okay.
and then you can do the next one. We are, I want to explain why we haven't sold the contract yet first, because that's going to be part of it, is we're not allowed to start that formal negotiations until August 1st. However, I think we'll start informal discussions sooner than that. So what I'm doing tonight is asking to extend contracts of our principals. The following I would like to extend for 3-year contracts: Jim Condon, Ken Olson, Jenny Hershey, Carrie McGuire, and Michael Dunn, because they've all been in positions, these positions that they're in. Starting in new positions, I would like you to give them 2-year contracts, which a couple of you already did tonight. Ann Funston, Michelle Reese, Andy Hartley, Angie Mills, Reed Galt, and then our 2 new ones. And then after the first year, if they're doing well, then we will go on and offer 3-year contracts to them. This is something we started a couple of years ago, and I'd like to have you act on that recommendation.
Okay, we'll do that one separate from
Yes.
the next. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank our administrators. I think they do a tremendous job. We've got a good administrative team, and we appreciate your work contributions.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so now we have the superintendent. And no words coming out here.
No, that's.
You had
I'm
words.
not putting words in your mouth.
You had words.
Yeah, but I didn't. Oh, yeah, I guess I did.
Your contract expires when?
I'm finishing the first year of a 3-year contract.
First year of a 3-year contract. And we are looking at, since we've gone to 3-year contracts for other administrators, going to a 4-year contract for Mr. Tyree. For the superintendent's position. And I would entertain a motion.
I'd so moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to say to Mr. Tyree, I think does an outstanding job, and I appreciate his work ethics and his dedication to Plymouth schools.
Thank you very much.
I agree. And he does always keep kids in mind. I do appreciate that too. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Textbook fees.
First, we have Mr. Galt from the junior high.
Okay. Sorry about that.
You can sit down.
Well, no, I actually needed to get up. Woke up pretty well. We have 7th and 8th grade. The only changes from last year is we put the computer fee with math, paired it with math, because in science we've done some, we're adding an integrated chemistry and physics that has a book involved, and we thought it would be better with suited with our math. So the the computer charge, okay, has also went up from $60 to $75 due to just the costs of repair that we have taken on since, and it's year 2 of the MacBooks, and we've got to go year 3 and 4, and we anticipate there might be a little bit more money to be spent on repairing those. And Mr. Funston will talk about the new procedures here in a minute as well. The other thing there on this 8th grade, you'll see that I had not taken off the old charge of for the computers, but I'd already put on the new one. So it's down under math. It's called Technology 1-to-1 Apple MacBook under math. The other thing would be Chinese. Our Chinese book is $15, so that comes out to be a $4 charge. And we put in an integrated chemistry physics lab charge of $5 as well. Any questions?
Just general Chinese, will all students take that?
No,
Is that an elective?
It's an elective. 8th grade students have signed up. We have approximately 55 students, I think, that have signed up.
Wow.
We have 2 sections of that.
In comparison to last year, the difference, the computer charge basically?
Yes, unless you take Chinese and maybe you're a band student as well. If you're one of those, if you're a student that's taken integrated chemistry and physics, band, and then Chinese, there could be an upcharge, more expensive for it.
But they know that going into it, right? Okay, so we're gonna vote on these. I would entertain a motion for, to approve these book fees.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. It still continually amazes me that these classes in junior high is what I took in my last years of high school and first years in college. Now 7th and 8th grade.
Thanks, Reed.
Crazy. Yeah, thank you. Hi, Andy.
Hello. For the high school, similarly, you'll see an increase in the laptop fees. We connect those with the English classes. Those are classes that every student takes throughout their time in high school, and so you'll see the $75 fee tied to those, which is a $15 increase from previous year. You'll also note, in comparing to last year's fees, differences in the agriculture, industrial technology, and business, and then a few in the music as well. Basically, the miscellaneous adoption year, what was typically done this year, has been delayed, and so with that, those are decreased about 10% for each course that was utilizing the textbook. We've also added Chinese. You'll see that in the world languages. Same book, same fees. We did learn that there's not a workbook like we thought there was with that program. That was a last-minute note, and so that $15, if you can dismiss that, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve book fees for high school.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions for Andy? All in favor?
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. I don't know if, I haven't attended a board meeting prior to this, but so I don't know if this goes along with tuition, or, I just read that there was an increase in tuition fees as well. I don't know if that, I know, is that separate from the book fees? Okay.
We don't
Tuition.
have tuition.
We don't
fees.
charge tuition.
It's a public
Okay.
school. So
Okay.
there's no-
Maybe, then I must have just read about it, then it was just an increase in book fees, then. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Thanks. All in favor say aye. Did I say that? No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I can't remember. Thank you. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Okay. 3.7, acceptable use policy.
Yes, you know, things have changed a lot in the last couple of years with the adoption of the one-to-one programs. And Mr. Funston, who's the head of the technology committee, took the responsibility of putting together a new acceptable use policy that really fits what we're doing better. I'll let him explain that. It's the first reading. There are questions that you have tonight. We're not going to vote on this till July.
Okay.
So we had 20 people, I think, part of our technology committee that, I won't say came up with this. This was stolen from other districts. Borrowed from other districts. Specifically, Danville's had some experience with take-home programs. So this, I'll just get in a nutshell, more clearly addresses a few things. It more clearly addresses the use of social media by staff and students. More clearly addresses some of the take-home issues. The acceptable use policy that we had before was not really that old, but had not been changed since we started allowing kids to take things home. So this more clearly addresses that. And then also addresses damage fees if something is taken off of school grounds. So I won't read the whole 5-page document to you here. If you have any questions, I can entertain those. Like Dan said, we discussed it with the PEA in May, and we're not bringing it to you for first reading. So.
Are we still,
Go ahead.
are we still providing insurance?
We didn't provide insurance this year. We actually self-insured, so we took the money that we had spent on insurance the first year of the one-to-one program and just kind of set that aside and did the repairs in-house. Bruce hired Justin, who's an certified Apple Tech, who does most of our repairs, if not all of our repairs.
And when Bruce did an analysis of that, we found that it was a savings, even though we had a lot of damage and repairs to do. It's still, we saved money instead of sending it out to the repair person and doing it ourselves.
One thing we have discussed is Safeware is the company that we worked with the first year, and they will provide a policy to parents if they choose to purchase one. So, which is less than the damage fee. So parents can choose to do that if they like. And we'll facilitate that for them.
Okay. Any other questions for Dan? Carol?
Can I ask, obviously the times with senior high have take-home, are we allowing any other grades to have take-home? All of them?
Yep. Second grade took home sometimes this year. And so the second through sixth will have them next year. And I don't know that they'll go home every night. Jen could probably speak to the 5-6 building. They're not going to go home every night, but they will still go home at times.
I can speak,
Discuss that more, yeah.
and I can speak to second grade. My son was in second grade, and we as parents knew that every Tuesday night he was bringing his MacBook home so we could look for it.
Okay.
And we knew because that was his homework, was his spelling, on the MacBook. So that was something that I think he looked forward to, that he got to bring his MacBook home, one night a week. So as a second grade parent, that worked out really well.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, proposed contract for nursing services.
Little background on that. Last fall, Lisa Letzinger, our head nurse for the last few years, left us to take another position. We waited a little bit and then asked all of our current nursing staff if they were interested in the position. for very good reasons, because they gave us good reasons. Nobody was at that time. It's a increasingly complicated field. There are increasing standards of law, a lot of work to keep up with, and Lisa did a really good job of doing that. A couple of our nurses are here right now, Barb and Susie, could tell you, about the guidance and things that it takes. When we were unable to do that, we said, well, we'll sit on it for a while and just see whether or not that attitude might change on any of them, and it didn't over time, which caused us to seek out a different way of providing nursing services. So we sought a proposal from St. Joe Regional Medical, found out that in fact they provide services for Penn and Mishawaka and have for more than 10 years. I forget which one was more. Have pretty much of a model that they have put together over time. One of the existing school nurses at one of the middle schools in Penn is the overall head nurse. She is supported by an administrative person from St. Joe Regional, and then they're supported by the overall legal staff, etc. at St. Joe. So we looked into that, and we looked into the finances involved, and basically discussed that back and forth with them. They made some recommendations about staffing, things of that nature, and came up with a proposal that you had a copy of in terms of the cost factors involved. We spent about $327,000 on the service in the previous year, and the recommendation from St. Joe Regional would be about $315,000. It includes an administrative fee of about $15,000 in that, and it's less for a number of reasons. Some was that we find that a number of other schools are assigning nursing services for shorter time periods than we do. The standard at the other two districts that St. Joe Regional works with is 6.5 for elementaries, 7.5 for lower secondary, and a full 8 hours for high school. And high schools tend to have more than one person assigned because of the numbers involved. Roughly 400 kids in an elementary school, 600 at an intermediate or junior high, and about 1,200 kids at the high school. And within their proposal was the ability for us at that lesser cost to be able to provide a health aide along with the nurse at the high school for an additional 6.5 hours per day, which would basically cover the student contact time. So we then asked them for a proposed contract. Jeff Huyen, your board attorney, did a review of that, found it to be acceptable, and we then talked specifically about the number of hours, the number of days. We needed to have some more days than what they recommended. We wound up with 185 days versus 195 days in the contract time, and that there would be a coordinator position for one of our nurses to serve, not to be the supervisor, but to be the communication vehicle back and forth to help assist with the head nurses. So our recommendation at this time is to enter into the agreement with St. Joe Regional Medical to provide those services, and at the stated hours, 6.5 for elementaries, 7.5 for intermediate and junior high, and 8 hours a day at the high school, and then an additional staff member of a certified health aide for 6.5 hours at the high school.
I would so move.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry. What does that mean? I have a daughter who receives nursing services at Webster. What does that mean for the nurse specifically at Webster and for any other medically fragile kids who may need care, emergency care at any time during the day?
The 6.5 hours covers all student time at Webster Elementary. It doesn't cover extracurricular time, but we don't cover that time necessarily anyway. But it covers the 6.5, the 7.5, and the 8 covers all student time for the 3 levels.
What is different then, I guess, between how it's been working so far and how it will work now? What's the main difference? What will they provide that our nurses right now are not?
Essentially, the same service will be provided. The difference would be in the supervision and the expertise in terms of applying the standards that have to be applied to it.
Okay.
That would be the responsibility of St. Joe Regional Medical, and the nurses would not be PC employees, they would be St. Joe Regional Medical employees.
Would we have the same person each day?
Pardon?
Would we have the same nurse each day, or would they be rotating staff?
No, they'd be assigned to a building. People could be transferred if there was an opening, if there was somebody sick. They said that they might do that at times. They'd take the health aide from the high school and put them in an elementary building for that day, or shift somebody if there was a particular reason. But essentially, they'd be assigned.
The reason I ask is because at the elementary level, it's really imperative that our nurses get to know a lot of our students. And that really helps with cutting down on the number of times they go to the office, and when there really is a legitimate issue, and when there's not a legitimate issue.
It's like another mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, the discussion early on, you know, that they have transfer among people in the other 2 districts, but that happens for the same reasons. Anybody has that happen, yeah.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, is
One
there
more
any
question.
discussion? I see. I just want to get the motion on the table.
Is there a difference in pay and benefit for the nurses?
The pay would be the same or higher for each one of the nurses, because there'd be a standard rate. Ours have 3 different levels. The benefits are slightly different. They're essentially 1-for-1, but they are slightly different because it would be the St. Joe Regional Medical Package, yeah.
Specifically, you don't know what the differences are in the benefits? Specifically, you said that benefits are pretty much 1-for-1, but it sounded like there is some differences.
Actually, some of our nursing staff may benefit better.
They would get higher benefits, some would get lower benefits. It depends upon the individual. Yeah.
But the coverage would be adequate in all buildings.
Yes, oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
I did have one question reading through here earlier. It states the nurse's expanded role with joint services children, which this lady was speaking of, needs or will require them to leave the health office more frequently and for extended periods of time. Corporation agrees to cover the health office when the nurse or health aide is absent. Who would that be?
Well, we currently do not. We have other people who are first aid training.
Okay.
Secretaries on, other people within the building, or a number of different people that have first aid training. Pretty much the way we do now.
Did I mishear they would need to leave more frequently? I might have misheard.
No.
No, it discussed in the contract, the event, because there are some children that require more care over extended periods of time, feedings, that sort of thing.
In some cases, that even necessitates bringing somebody additionally. Often that would happen.
Thank you. I would just like to tell you that we do work 8 hours now, and sorry.
Barb's been here a long time.
I think I've taken care of most of your children. 6.5 hours, we would be out for 1/2 hour. There would be no coverage for 1/2 hour in elementary, just to let you know. Because we get paid 8 hours, we're in the building 8 hours. We take our lunch whenever we can. So we are in the buildings for 8 hours. If it goes down to 6.5, there would be no coverage for a 1/2 hour. Plus, I wanted to let you know that many of our we talk with our parents many times before and after school. Those opportunities would not be there if we got cut down to 6.5 hours too. There's a lot of things that we do before and after school to communicate with parents.
It's the board's option if you want to have longer hours. The recommendation is to meet the standard that is being used overall in the area, but it's your choice if you want to have more hours.
Does that 6.5 include lunch, or is that?
No. It'll be 7 hours on site, 1/2 an hour is an unpaid lunch.
Does that make the same, Barb?
Yeah, that would, what we were told, 6.5 hours at work.
That does not include lunch, no.
It never has.
Why wouldn't you continue to keep the hours the same?
Because it's less money and because the standard being used around is less. Kids, elementary kids, our contact time in school starts at 5 hours and runs up to around 6 or a little bit more, depending on the child. At secondary school, it's a little bit more than that. At high school, because of the activities, it's even longer periods. So the standards that are being used overall are differentiated number of hours. What a lot of nurses do with that additional time are clerical duties, quite frankly. Some of those would be assumed in the contract, some are not medical clerical duties, they're office clerical duties. They fill in for the secretaries, they answer the phone. I guess I'd rather pay less than nurses pay to answer phones. But it's entirely your option. If you would like, it would cost about $21,000 to $22,000 to make those hours back up to 8 hours.
And what was our cost last year, you said?
About $327,000. It would go to about $337,000.
Well, we have a motion on the table. And a second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed, no? No? Okay, motion carries. Now that we did that, are there openers for adjustments?
You can
Periodically?
Yeah, you can set, it's your choice to set.
So if we see that this isn't enough,
That's correct.
then we can make an adjustment?
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
While Mr. Smith, Dr. Smith won't be around, I will guarantee you that Mr. Funston will evaluate this in the first 2 months of school and come back and make a report to the board.
That would be great.
I need to write down.
Yeah.
Carol, what was the length of that contract?
Pardon me?
The length of the contract?
It's an ongoing contract, yeah, for a year, and can be renewed, ongoing, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. You had something you want to do?
Oh, were you that one? You all right?
Yeah, I think we are.
That was the last item?
Yep. That's last week.
Most of you know Carrie Cannon. Carrie has been our administrative intern in this office for about the past year. And you know that she's recently been appointed curriculum director at New Prairie Schools. She wanted to be here tonight, but she's a mom with 4 kids. And so she asked if I would read a thank you statement, basically. And so I will. I want to first apologize that I cannot be here in person, but with 4 kids and their sports schedules, it can get pretty hectic. However, I didn't want to miss an opportunity to thank all of you for my extraordinary experience here at Plymouth Community Schools. During my PhD internship, I have learned so much from each and every talented principal, as well as the entire teaching and administrative staff. The corporation is very fortunate to have such great individuals leading their schools. I also want to thank each and every person who works in the administrative office. Before coming to Plymouth, I had the opportunity to interview at other corporations. Not one corporation had the heart, warmth, and dedication that this central office staff exemplifies. Your central office personnel have always welcomed, supported, and assisted me in more than a number of ways. Lastly, I want to thank Mr. Dan Tyree for his leadership. I know that sometimes Mr. Tyree has been known to get rather passionate at times about areas of concern within the school corporation. However, I want you all to know that his leadership and vision for this school corporation is first and foremost on his mind. I have had the privilege to share countless conversations concerning the direction of your corporation, and I have marveled at the determination to succeed for Mr. Tyree. With Mr. Tyree's leadership, the vision of the school is always evolving. He has allowed me to lead when opportunities have arisen and has given me administrative duties that have tremendously helped me grow as a leader. I wish all of you the very best and thank you for helping refine my leadership skills. Wishing you all success, Carrie Cannon. Thank Carrie.
Yes, tell her thanks.
And she's going to be back some because she's still doing research with us for her PhD.
Okay, superintendent's remarks.
Yeah, commitment to students. Recently, we celebrated the retirements of Donna Burrows, principal at Riverside, Jefferson, and Webster, and Dave Cox, varsity girls basketball coach. Receptions were held for each of them. Mr. Cox served 20 years as basketball coach. Mrs. Burrows has over 32 years in education. We wish them well in their retirements, and we know both of them are going to continue working in different areas. Dave will continue teaching with us. 4.2, caring. The summer lunch program is underway. The program is sponsored by the state and helps feed students who can't feed themselves. Already, the Boys and Girls Club and the Summer Parks program, as well as several other daycares, are utilizing this program. 4.3, high expectations. Recently, in the next couple of weeks, Dave McKenzie will be the host of the NFL National Tournament at Ben Davis High School, of the entire campus, I should say. Dave will be hosting over 4,500 high school students and junior high students for a week-long tournament. We wish him well. 4.4, we want to thank LaPorte Hospital Foundation, who recently donated $750 for the impact concussion testing for our athletes at Plymouth High School. All freshmen, all students will be tested. 4.6, enjoyment. This year's classified breakfast was celebrated at the end of the year with approximately 160 employees taking part. We recognize the retirements and years of service. Thanks to Christo's Banquet Hall for making this an affordable and delicious meal. PHS graduation is this Friday the 8th, 2012. We're supposed to be there, it starts at 7:30. We're supposed to be in the East Foyer at 7:10 p.m. Mr. Brubaker and myself will be attending the Superintendent's Evaluation Conference on June 12th at Calumet New Tech School. And the next board meeting will be Tuesday, July 10th, 7 o'clock p.m. here, and that's changed because of the 4th of July. One last thing we have, Dr. Smith is ending his 4-year career for the community schools, and to honor him and 4 years of service, we have a little something for him.
Well, good.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you
Smith.
very much. It's going to be more slow.
No, it won't.
More slow. Let me see what's in. I think Donna Burrows had the same problem. Just the other one. Let's see it. Oh, beautiful. Very nice. Thank you. Well, now wait a minute. I can't read this. No wonder I have to retire. Melissa, you get her eyes on it. I can't read it.
In recognition and sincere appreciation for your 43 years of service and leadership in the field of education.
Thank you very much. What a great place to finish.
And I have to say, I feel very honored and privileged that you chose us to finish your career with, because you have been a huge help to us and have helped Dan, I know, with budgeting and You were just what we needed when we needed you the most. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. This has been a really great place to spend these last 4 years. It's been a joy, and I've said this a number of times before. I committed to myself and to Gail a long time ago that I would retire when I still liked coming to work. And I really still like coming to work here. This is a great place to be. Thanks.
I've known Roger for many years as a principal and superintendent, and always admired and respect him as a super educator, and wish you all the best, Roger.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And one last thing, it's on my notes here, I have to say it, I guess. Mr. Pinkerton will be celebrating his 75th birthday this Saturday.
That ruined my day. I quit counting at 69.
I hope I can go as fast and as hard and long as you can when I'm 75, Larry.
Yes.
I can't keep up. Okay. Item 5.1, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak on any of the agenda items we talked about? All right.
I'm sorry.
Carol.
Not to be anti-dramatic, but I'm retiring tonight too.
You are?
Oh, Carol.
What do you mean? You can't retire.
I'm not retiring from the pilot. They can't do it without me. Kathy's just here because trying to see to make sure I was working. But I am retiring from the speech, and the number of kids that I still hear from that have gone through that program, that's something that you need to make sure that it keeps going. And,
thank you for all your help and years of
say
service in that too.
I just want to make sure that that is a program that keeps going. This is phenomenal kids. Other than your school attorney is a product of that.
She said that with love, Jen.
Yeah, I can tell.
Thanks, Carol.
Yes, thanks, Carol. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.